Welcome to Game of Books with Cathi in South Dakota.
That's me, and Christy in South Florida.
That's me. We're two newbie writers sharing our take on wine, food, and mystery books.
And the authors who write them. Join us for the fun.
Hi, Cathi and all you mysterious foodies out there.
Hello.
Hello. This is episode 23, our grand finale for season 1.
Woo-woo!
I know. And you do you realize that along with Corks and Conversation, that means we've done 32 straight weeks of podcasting.
I cannot believe it. I'm gonna give us kind of a little pat on the back.
Yes, we're rock stars. That's what I think.
I think so too. And you know, when you see that number though, although I am kind of tired.
I know, right?
It's a lot of books. And
we have read a lot of books. Yeah.
A lot of wine.
Oh, yes.
We've drank a lot of wine.
I know. We're going to have to probably do a little bit of a break on that, too, for our little intermission. We'll be like, okay, we're going to not read. No, I think we're going to have to keep it up.
I was thinking about doing research on both ends.
Yeah.
On the wine and the books.
That's a good idea. That's a good idea.
I know, that's what I was thinking. Our neighbor just brought over some wine that looked so interesting and so yummy.
Oh,
and
good.
my husband was all excited to share this bottle of wine. And I was like, oh, wait, we're going to talk about it in our podcast. I think that was not what he was thinking. But anyway.
We're going to share it with everybody. Not just with... Yeah, I know. Well, think about it, too. When we started out, we were doing 2 books every episode.
Yeah, that was a lot.
Yeah.
It was a lot. And you know what? Also, though, I like sharing the book and going deep the way we do it now.
Yeah.
So we are on the same page. Because before, for those of us, for those mysterious foodies that didn't listen to the earlier ones.
And you can always go back. They're still there.
Yes, you can. Because there's some we went through a lot of books during those first several episodes. Because we each had a book that we would bring to the table, as it were.
Yep.
The table that's 2,000 miles long, and each of us kind of summarize it and then talk to the other person about it, and it was really fun because we got to talk about more books.
Yes.
But I do like getting to go deep, I think, on a book together.
Yes, because I always felt like there was so much information that I mean we had to learn how to not talk so much because we knew so much about each book that it would have gone on.
We'd each get so excited about our book.
And now I'm going back and reading. Like I just started, since I know that we don't have one, that we have to read for next week. I'm going back and reading one of the books that you suggested.
I know.
That I never got to.
Yeah, you had texted me that, and I think you're really going to like it. And so now I want to talk about it again with you. But one thing we haven't told our mysterious foodies is that we never discuss our books together beforehand. We really want to have it fresh and be on the air. So we never give up our opinions about anything until we're talking about it on the podcast.
Yep.
Which I'm kind of proud of us for being able to do that.
I know.
Because there will be times where I'll start and you'll say, wait, don't do it, don't talk about it yet. Because I'm a little impatient.
Well, right now I'm going to say, wait. We've got to talk about the wine before we go any further.
Yes. Okay.
All right. So what was the wine you picked?
Okay, so I picked the Trivento Malbec.
Mm-hmm.
And it is, interestingly, we did a Malbec that I also had picked on episode 20. And we did the Alamos Malbec when we discussed DJ Palmer's Saving Megan.
Right.
And so I wasn't really intending to choose a Malbec again, but I have a reason. So we can talk about that later. But that's why. So if it sounds kind of familiar, go back and check out episode 20 so we always could compare.
So
but it is also from... Yeah, let me taste it too here. It's from the Mendoza region in...
Argentina. I didn't look at the tasting notes in case you're going to put me on the spot.
You know what? I was thinking about it, but I think it's really hard. But I am
You think it's going to be impossible, right?
No, I think this one you'll get it really well.
Why?
But
give me a
hint.
I don't know.
Why do you give you a hint? Well, because we've already done a Malbec.
I know,
you know,
but,
and it's from a very similar region.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, so let's take a drink, and you just tell me what you taste.
I feel like it's a little peppery.
Okay.
A little spicy.
A little spicy, really?
Yeah.
I'm gonna have a little bit now and see if I got that.
Oh man, I want to look at the back. I can't. You're much better at this than me.
Cheaty McCheaty. Okay, so it is. The tasting notes are: it's a deep red and violet in color. Obviously.
Oh, I could have said that.
I know.
I should have said that.
That's not really a tasting note, but I think it's part of it. But it has powerful aromas of ripe red fruits, strawberries, and cherries, with hints of coffee and chocolate from the oak. It has a good body.
That's why you thought I'd do it. And I was going to pick chocolate just because I thought you would think that that was what I would say, but I couldn't really taste it. So
I don't really taste the chocolate either, but I don't taste pepper either.
Maybe it's just because I brushed my teeth a little while ago. I don't know. I got to have another sip, let me tell.
That's funny. I went to a yoga class, actually, that we had mimosas at. And one of my friends just winced when she had her orange juice and champagne because she was like, oh, I knew it was too soon since I had brushed my teeth.
That's the worst, don't you think? Orange juice is like the worst after you brush your teeth. It's like,
especially when you've added champagne to it and then you're ruining that whole thing. Awful.
Yep.
So, interestingly, it does say for pairing, and we'll go back to this, but the Malbec is an ideal match to full-flavored foods and barbecued meats. So that was
okay.
That's a little hint for later. But I do want to mention to you quick before we go on that I found a really cool review of this particular Malbec. What are you laughing at?
I was turning the bottle around, just sliding it around, and
Cheating.
Our sound editor gave me this look like I was torturing him, like I was scratching the chalkboard, and it's on a placemat and everything, but oh well. All right, I'll be very careful with it.
He's a very diligent sound editor.
Okay, so go on.
Maybe too much. Okay,
as you were saying.
I found a really great review for this wine.
Oh, okay.
When I was Googling it, and it's a really neat website or blog, and I wanted to tell you about it because I think our listeners might like it too. It's called, and it's got a great name. It's called Reverse Wine Snob. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
It's a great,
okay, let's see. What would a reverse wine snob be? That means a wine glutton. I don't know.
The tagline is "Wine doesn't have to be expensive to be good."
Oh,
so
okay.
it's a guy who reviews
a guy after our
wines.
own hearts. Maybe we should have him on a podcast.
Well, and he gave this a great review. He really thought that this particular Malbec, this Trivento, he said it's pretty darn good for an $8 wine. It was $10 here.
Yeah, I think mine was.
And he suggested that you use it as your house red.
Oh.
And he thought it was, he really liked it. But it's a fun website, and I thought people who listen to our podcast might enjoy it. So
yeah, and you know what? On my bottle, on the front of my bottle, because I think I have the latest bottle. It's 2018. Okay. I don't know what yours is, but there's a sticker on there that says "Official Wine of Major League Soccer."
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I thought that was interesting too. I didn't know they had an official wine, but now I know.
They have I didn't find an actual website just for the Trivento wine. I mean, I found their distributor's website. And the second thing that popped up actually was that review from Reverse Wine Snob. So that's how I got on there.
Cool.
But I don't know about the soccer sponsorship. That's neat.
Yeah. Anyway.
Really cool.
Well, it's very good.
So there you go. Yeah.
All right. So now that we have our wine, so tell us, what kind of fun things are you going to do besides testing wines and books for our next season?
Yeah, I'm going to dive deep into my research. Well, of course, you and I are going to meet at Thriller Fest. So we aren't on a full hiatus. I mean, we'll be doing a lot of the Killer Season 2 work at Thriller Fest, I think.
Yeah, I think so. I hope so.
But
I
yeah, I hope so too.
Yeah, there's so many. There's going to be so many great authors, and
yeah,
it's going to be fun.
Really amazing experience. To any other writers out there who are thinking about a conference, I would highly recommend Thriller Fest if that's your genre.
Now it is expensive because it's in New York, so you might have to start, planning way ahead of time. Although
it is expensive,
start putting away some coins each month or something. But it's well worth it, I think.
Yeah. So my main plan, honestly, is to really dive deep in my writing. To rededicate more hours a week to that. That's kind of my main thing. All
right. If we were near each other, I'd do this. High five.
Or we could do a cheers with our glass.
Okay, cheers. Ding. Yeah, because I feel the same way. I feel like, just to have, even though, the podcast is a ton of fun and the blog is a lot of fun. And, this has been such a great experience this whole year, really. It will be nice to have a little break, kind of like, summer break for school,
Well, I think the benefit of the break is twofold for me. One, I am excited to take a break and get refreshed, and we can, dive in deep and decide how we're going to do next year a little bit better. That's always really fun. Mm-hmm. But I am going to take advantage of the time savings for sure and put that into my writing. So that's what I want to do this next
I know, and
year.
I have fun writing coming up. I think you're kind of in the editing phase.
I am in the editing slot.
That's not as fun to me. It's not terrible, but it's really not as fun.
I have been on that the negative side of the editing, my feelings at least, just not feeling great about it. But that's been for a variety of reasons. I will say yesterday I had probably the best editing day I've ever had. And I got more accomplished in that day. Yeah, so that really made me excited, actually. So that felt great. So I think when it goes well, man, you can feel so good. It's just like writing. But I was just thinking about that this morning, that, each stage, when we ask writers how they work, we're usually asking them about, like, initial drafting, right? Like, how many words a day, that kind of stuff.
Right,
but after you do an initial draft, you're fixing and you're tinkering and you're revising and editing. And so it's never that just throwing words on the paper, except for, in my mind, that first draft. Because then you're, tinkering. So there's definitely
an interesting question I think we should ask is also, do you want to go back and edit things that have already been published? Because that's kind of... Because, like, I've been having sort of an itch to go back and edit the one that I feel like is at the point where, I'm querying it. And I'm like going, is that just a procrastination technique on my part? Or
to not do your project?
Yeah, like, I don't know. Like, okay, well, I think I can write this better. I can do, I don't know.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting you said that, because I just ordered and received... the first book that Harlan Coben ever published. And he added a new foreword, or an author's note at the beginning, mentioning how difficult it was for him to go back, because there are so many things that he would have changed or done differently, or, the writing was much more raw than what he's doing now. And I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, that's good to know, because I kind of feel the same way. I'm like going, you learn, the more you learn, the more you don't know, you know, so.
Right. And I mean, with the lengthy career that you are intending to have, you're always going to go back to that first book, right? And be like, ugh.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm all for editing, but I also think you better get your new project going.
Yep.
Just saying.
Yep, it's going good. It's going good.
I know. I'm excited about that.
So, we should talk about the book.
Quick sip. I know. Yeah. Let's talk about our new book today. Let's take another sip of wine.
Okay.
And I want to hear all about it.
Okay. It's Into the Black Nowhere by Meg Gardner.
Yes.
Yes. So, Meg Gardner it's funny, since we started reading this, she's just been popping up all over the place.
Yeah. You and I did mention that. I'm like, did you see her Instagram post or her? Yeah.
Yeah. So
Really cool.
So she's a thriller writer, obviously. I guess it's not obvious, but it is. She is. And the book today, Into the Black Nowhere, is the second in her Unsub series. The first one was called Unsub. And that won a 2018 Barry Award for Best Thriller. And it's also CBS has picked it up for a series.
I didn't realize it was a television series. I knew something was happening. I read something, but okay.
Yes, CBS is doing it. So the main character is FBI agent Caitlin Hendricks. So she's like a rookie, and I liked her. I thought she had a lot of depth, and you know, she's an FBI agent. Yay!
Yeah,
we always love it.
Oh, for sure. I would love to see this group of characters on screen. I mean, I would absolutely be watching that CBS series.
Yes, and it's going to be out there. And the picture that we saw on Instagram and Facebook and stuff was her third book in the series that comes out in, like, I think February of 2020. What was it called? I forget. I wrote it down somewhere. The Dark Corners of the Night. She likes long titles for these.
Yeah, that's a good title.
So in addition to this series, Unsub series, she has the Evan Delaney novels. There's 5 of those, and that's a feisty journalist from Santa Barbara. And and one of those, the China Lake, won the Edgar Award in 2009 for the best paperback original. And it was listed as a finalist for NPR's 100 Best Thrillers Ever. So obviously we have some summer reading to do, just a backstory on Meg Gardner. And then she has the Joe Beckett series featuring a San Francisco forensic psychiatrist, and that has 4 books, and she has 3 standalones. So she's very prolific, and her background sort of reminds me of you, because, well, I don't know what your bachelor's was in. Hers was in economics, but she went to law school, and then she practiced in Los Angeles, and she taught a writing program at the University of California at Santa Barbara. And
Interesting.
And then she moved with her husband to London and her 3 small children, and then she began writing these suspense novels, and now she lives in Austin, Texas, and she's still writing. And
really, I mean, that's a very interesting background.
Oh, yeah. So you think that, also, beyond writing, she's a 3-time Jeopardy champion.
Oh, really?
Yes. And a citizen of the Chickasaw Nation.
Oh.
Interesting, huh?
So, it's interesting when I said that she has a varied background, that would obviously lend itself to Jeopardy. And Jeopardy's been all over in the news lately.
I know.
Do you watch Jeopardy?
Yeah, well, I don't on a regular basis. I mean, I have in my life. Me and my ex-husband I made a spreadsheet, and we used to play Jeopardy with the actual spreadsheet and compete. How nerdy is that?
What did you just say? What did you just say? Did you just actually combine spreadsheet,
Should I cut that
Jeopardy,
out?
and no, absolutely not. But I'm reassessing what I know about you. Like, I have to really, really think now.
Well, just like a board, and see who actually wins, because it was highly competitive.
I like a little. I was going to say, I didn't know you were that competitive. My goodness.
Well, it was more for fun. It wasn't like, there wasn't any big money on the line or anything. Maybe some dishes got washed or something. But
yeah, bragging rights.
But anyway, and for Meg Gardner, I have left the best for last. She is also featured in the Mystery Writers of America cookbook.
Oh, so she's a foodie.
I'm thinking she might be either
we
that
need
or
to talk
I don't
to
know.
her.
I don't know what her recipe is. It could be something really, funny, because she writes these horrible. She is funny though. I think in her interactions on social media and stuff, and interviews that I read. So I don't know, but anyway,
that's great. Wow.
Yes. So anyway, we spent so much time talking about Meg Gardner. You don't even have to read the book. Just.
No, we got to tell everybody what the book is.
Yes.
About what this.
Last but not least, she's president of Mystery Writers of America this year. She's the new president.
Oh, she is.
Yes.
Replacing Jeffrey Deaver. Is that who it was last year? Remember?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
So
yeah. So anyway, this book is it is about a serial killer. It's actually inspired by the real life serial killer Ted Bundy.
Mm.
And I don't know how much you know about Ted Bundy.
Well, I want to say more than I wish I did, but yet, I don't know that much.
Right. Well, of course, he ended up in Florida, and at Florida State, which is actually where my parents went to school. That's where he did the last murders before he got caught, and he was executed in Florida. And the murders all happened mainly in the 70s, and he was executed in 1989. But there's been so much written about him and so much, I just thought, I know about him because there's there's movies and whatever.
Right.
Well, so I decided to read a little bit about it, and I can't give anything away, as far as what she wrote in the book. But I felt like when I was reading this book, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that. Oh my gosh, as the suspense was building and it was going on, and I was like going, really? Could that happen? Well, guess what? All the crazy things that you thought, no, I'm not sure if that would really happen. Well, those were the things. Yes, he had such a crazy, he escaped from jail twice.
I did not know that.
Yes.
I knew he was quite a charmer, right? That he was.
He escaped.
And I found that to be creepy. Yeah.
Yeah, he escaped, and then they got him. He kind of came back after, and then his lawyers pretty much thought he was going to get off. This was in Colorado or something, and he escaped again. And this one, what he did was he was going to be his own attorney. And he wanted to go to the library at the courthouse. And while he was behind the stacks, he jumped out a window and left. Yeah. And so then that was the time he was only gone for like 6 days. And then the next time he sawed through some restrictions like bars in the ceiling, and he got out through the ceiling. And that's when he left and went to Florida and killed more people and stuff.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
I did not know any of that.
I know. I didn't either. I was like, incredible. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So, and along the way.
Wasn't there recently a movie about him, or maybe a Netflix series or something?
I think so. I think so, because it was on, and the commercial was on. I think my son was like, "Who's Ted Bundy?" And I'm like, "You don't know who Ted Bundy is?" I was like, "Oh my goodness." But yeah, so that was, and you know what I found also very interesting is, of course, the character in Meg's book is not, it's just like loosely based on that. But we were just talking with Carla Norton about true crime versus writing fiction based on true crime, or loosely, and how you can, and I just thought it was really interesting that and because on top of this, the the first book that she wrote in this series was based on the Zodiac Killer, whatever, they don't even know who he is. So I was like, wow. It's
like a sliding scale between, I mean, obviously this is fiction, but when there's true crime, right? Nonfiction. And then there's this kind of fiction that's inspired by true crimes. I mean, I can see where there could be a sliding scale where you could land on either one if you're planning a project. And that's really
right. But this one, in this case, I mean, it's present day. So we've got present day technology, you know. I mean, Ted Bundy could get away with a lot because they didn't even really have DNA testing back then, you know.
Well, and they also didn't have computer systems that communicated with each other, you know, law enforcement agencies. So that's improved greatly, too.
I mean, you know, can you imagine somebody? But if you're a mystery thriller writer, you've got to work around that, you know. And I'm thinking, so do nowadays serial killers, because they're still out there, you know.
Oh yeah.
So I'm thinking, you know,
it's interesting. I remember one time working on a case that was in my few days as a prosecutor, and it was a pretty violent offender that we thought, you know, had been in other places with a record, but we didn't. The technology didn't, you know, it wasn't like we could look up his records nationwide, and so we were literally calling other law enforcement agencies just on the phone saying, "Do you have records?" And they're looking through paper records. Wow. You know, to fax to us. And at that point, you know, was that fax with a roller, you know?
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
I know.
Yeah.
I know. Thank goodness now they can do that. But I'm sure, like I said, you know, and there's cameras everywhere now. But, you know, we see in this book how you can get around that kind of stuff, you know?
Oh, yeah.
So
this book is creepy. I mean, I thought it has a serious creep factor.
It was seriously creepy.
I did a combination of reading and listening to this book.
Oh.
Have you done? You know,
I have done that with some books. Yeah, I didn't do it with this one, but yeah.
And I was listening to it during one particular scene that I thought was pretty creepy, and I had the hairs on my arm were standing up, and I was just like, it was creepy.
Well, you know, also, do you think it was the way
Meg.
I know the way the person read it too? Probably. I mean, that would just like, you know, it's like another dimension there. Oh my gosh, yeah. And so, on an interesting side note too, about Ted Bundy, he actually worked the Seattle suicide hotline.
He worked it?
Yes. You know, he worked as he was like a volunteer there.
Oh my God.
Yes. This was before, you know, because he started out up in Seattle area with his murders. And his workmate, the person working with him, was Anne Rule, who went on to write all the true crime books. One of them, or the first one maybe, or one of them was
Carla
The Stranger.
Mentioned her.
Yeah, and
yes,
she wrote The Stranger Beside Me or something like that. I can't remember exactly the title. And so she knew him there and thought he was just, you know, normal, charming kind of guy. And, you know, he was young, whatever. And yeah, kind of scary.
Creepy.
I know.
It's a good book. Everyone should go grab it and read it or listen to it because it's good.
Yeah, it is. It is. All right, but on a lighter note, there was food in the book.
There was food. Finally, the food piece. Okay, so this was not hard for me at all because so it's a pretty early scene in the book. Like you said, the main character, this new FBI agent, Caitlin, is with her team, and they're in a new town doing some investigation. And she decides to go, and she talks about how when she's in a new location, she tries to go to the kind of local place just to get a feel in the community. Yep. This community happened to be terrified because women were being abducted. And so everyone was kind of obviously very much on edge. But anyway, so she went across the street to a taco stand to get food for she and all of her coworkers. And this is what I loved, is that she goes up to the taco stand and she gives us a pretty detailed list of all the different kinds, some of the different kinds of tacos.
I know, my stomach was growling when I was reading
Mine too. 25 different tacos ranging from pulled pork to Jamaican jerk to sriracha shredded lamb and cranberry habanero jam. I mean, I was like, yes, please. Hello. All of it. And so she did the thing I've always wanted to do, which was she's like, I'll take one of everything. I've always wanted to do that.
I
right?
know. I was like thinking that stood out to me too. I was like, oh my gosh, that's like 50 tacos or whatever. I don't know. What was it? She said one of everything or two of everything. I know. That's why I was like going. I was thinking the same thing. How many tacos can these people eat? Although I have eaten a lot in my day. I can remember during a happy hour or two eating a lot of them.
Well, especially if it's like a street taco, they're a little bit smaller. They're not like a huge, burrito size thing. But so two things. I'll tell you why I grabbed the Malbec is that I did some research into how to pair wine with tacos.
Okay.
And I found a great article in the Wine Enthusiast magazine. But of course, because the tacos were so far-ranging in different kinds, it made it really tricky. And so I decided that I went with if I was on the receiving end of her lovely delivery, I would probably pick a beef. I mean, that's just I like a beef. I like any kind of taco, but I thought I'd go with a beef. Okay. And so it said, this great article mentioned that if you are looking at a beef, a seared, a braised, or a stewed beef, that you should go for a bolder red, specifically a Malbec. And so I thought, cool. Well, I like Malbec, and so I'm not going to go wrong there.
Yep.
But my question to you is, do you have like food stands near your house that you frequent? Taco stands. Okay, so go ahead. Because I'm thinking you must have a lot more access to this kind of a thing, or maybe even a food truck than I do. I just don't.
Well, I was thinking about this. I mean, as you might know, I'm not like, I don't go out a ton, I don't go out to dinner a ton or whatever. But there was where I was living before, it was walking distance, and it was this taco place that had tacos like that, They would have unusual ones, they might have, alligator or, they could have anything. And then they also were at, because I was like, oh, but I had them one time when I was at like this festival. And then I remembered that they were at a booth. It wasn't like a food truck, but it reminded me of a food truck kind of thing. And there are lots of food trucks around. I just haven't gone to a lot unless they're, outside. Sometimes like we have a lot of breweries, so they don't have food. So outside they'll have a food truck and they might have that, or festivals might have just food trucks come up. And so that's when I've had them. And yes, the taco ones are usually the ones that I want to have because they try to make them so unusual. In fact, I was thinking, dang, my kids are back. I've been doing some Taco Tuesday. I think I'm just going to stop getting the, El Paso Taco Bell kits and and maybe start making some of my own kind of fun stuff. Because it sounds so good.
I know. I will say that we have a couple food trucks that show up on occasion in town.
I wouldn't think tacos were a big hit in South Dakota, but I could be wrong.
I think that's people love tacos around here.
Okay.
But I always try to frequent them when I hear about them. I mean, it just isn't a consistent thing. In Sioux Falls and Rapid City, the larger cities in South Dakota, they certainly have them. We just don't have as much in Brookings. But at home, as far as cooking, my latest favorite thing for tacos is doing like a pork carnita. My daughter loves them, and I do too. I like pork and tacos a ton. Also,
I mean, do you like slow cook the pork all day, or what do you do?
Yeah, like slow cook. Yeah, like slow cook a Boston butt or a roast.
Yeah, I like me some butt.
If it's from Boston.
Yeah.
Or I think that's also called pork shoulder. If it doesn't, here it's called Boston.
Oh, come on! Don't the shoulder, the butt are two different places. So.
I think they. Anyway, but then I will put it under once you tear it and shred it, put it under the broiler so it gets crispy, and that's where the good stuff happens. That's what the magic is.
Yes,
I agree. Anyway, Yeah, I'm getting hungry now. But
I know, me too.
I'll take anything in a taco. There is nothing actually fish tacos are one of my favorite things. Yes. I love fish tacos. So anyway. Okay, so listen, that's it. So there's good food, it's a great book. Now, the writer's perspective.
The writer's perspective.
The final writer's perspective of season 1.
Anyway, okay, so this is what I started thinking when I was reading this book, and like you said, the creep factor was there. I wonder about writing antagonists. Antagonists. Yeah, antagonists, not protagonists. Yeah. Okay. And like, or just, how bad is your bad guy? Like, I wrote a book with a serial killer. So
yes, you did.
I kind of know from that perspective, not every book has a serial killer as the bad guy, but people write them in different ways. Like, do you write them as like you're inside their mind, or you're like from the investigator's perspective, or like in this, she kind of did both, I think.
Yeah.
Which is kind of what I did, but you could do it but she also put the victim's perspective. I don't know if you realize that. I mean, it was third person, but it was third person close on the victims and it was third person close on the main character. And then also, once we started hearing about the serial killer, it was on him too. So, what do you do?
Yeah, well, I don't have a wide range of experience, but the project that I am editing right now is it's not a serial killer. It's a I wouldn't classify her. I mean, she's killed more than one person, but I wouldn't classify her as a serial. She's got like a specific.
She's a bad guy that kills people too.
She's pretty bad, and but she's pretty bad. She's pretty naughty. And I do write scenes from her perspective. Mm-hmm. I will say she likes food. I didn't realize that until right now, but I have put a lot of. She likes to eat while she's waiting to do things she shouldn't be doing. And
that's very interesting. I mean, psychologically, I'm starting to think. I'm like, because I'm thinking my serial killer, he wasn't, talking about food too much. So
no, and she's a food snob. It makes it even worse. She's a total food snob.
Oh, good. I can't wait to read it.
I know. This summer you'll read it. So this summer. Yeah, so it's interesting because when I read things like Meg Gardner's book and her Scary Person, it makes me think, is my antagonist scary enough? You just kind of go big or go home, right? And I always think, is she as bad as I can make her? Like, so now I'm
but I think everything is different, and the thing is, not everybody wants to read something so terrible, and then it can be interesting that if a bad guy is not all the way bad, so then you're kind of conflicted,
Well, I think every character, no matter how good or bad they are on the spectrum, right, has to have elements of both. I mean, they have to find something that is.
But a serial killer is pretty much
it's
bad.
Pretty hard.
But it's interesting to write it because, when it's a little exhausting, when you write it from their perspective. So I'm not sure that, but it's also fun.
It's creepy. So, it is. So have you ever gotten creeped out by your own writing?
Yeah.
Like when you
I do. Whenever I would write the serial killer thing, it would be like, that would be a day that I would be like exhausted, and then at the same time be like a little exhilarated, going,
I like
should I be? And then I'd be like,
what is wrong?
I need to get out of this and go talk to some normal people.
Yeah, I feel you.
Yeah.
Well, I am glad you talked about that aspect of it, because this book in particular sure had a pretty awful Antagonists, but man, was it readable.
Yeah, and I just found it so great the way she handled it. Because, there are times when you read books that you're like, okay, it seems, I don't know, it doesn't flow as smoothly. But this kind of, even though you're jumping around from head to head to head, somehow she was able to kind of do it where you didn't even kind of notice. You're like, oh yeah.
She's masterful, let's say that.
She's masterful. Yeah, so it was interesting.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm not sure if we came to any conclusions on how to do it the best way, but I don't think there is a best way. I think you just do it the way you do it and the way you can live with yourself.
Well, I think Meg Gardner is a good study if you want to know how to do it. If anybody's interested in doing some research.
Yep. I agree. So, anyway, once again, today's book was Into the Black Nowhere by Meg Gardner. And, Cathi, so what do you think about this Trivento official wine of the Major League Soccer wine?
I'm curious about that. I like it. I think it's a really nice, drinkable wine. Mm-hmm. What do you think?
I'm starting to taste the chocolate and the...
Yeah,
I do. I think it's a good table wine. I think I agree. You could have it with a lot of different things. So I'm enjoying it.
It was, I think it was just right at $10 here in South Dakota.
Yep, that's what it was here too. Like 10 and change.
All
right. So all of you MFs out there, thanks for hanging in here with us while we've grown. I mean, we've changed a lot in 32 weeks, but and we've learned a lot, but you stuck through us through season 1 of Game of Books, and we have a ton planned for season 2.
We do.
I mean, we're going to be planning, and we have things planned. So in other words, we'll be like scheduling. Yeah, it's going to be fun. And so we need you to subscribe for sure so that you know when we're starting back up. And you can always go back and listen to our old episodes in the meantime, because we do have 32 of them. I know.
Pretty rough. It's kind of funny.
I know. They'll get you through a road trip or two, maybe a workout or something.
Nice.
Yeah. But yeah.
And you, of course, can continue to follow us over the summer while we're on hiatus on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Yep.
Our handle is @GOBWriters.
That's us.
We would love to hear. That's us. We would love to hear what you like or want more of on our episodes as we prepare for a killer season 2.
Yes. So that's all for this episode and season 1 of Game of Books. We'll be back with you in a couple months, where you can get your food, wine, and mystery tips every Friday morning, just in time for the weekend.
This is Cathi.
And Christy.
Saying thanks for listening.
Bye everybody.